child can understand it, that we're not this body. The body is always changing. I am always the same. You know, it's you know, what is more straightforward than that? And therefore we cannot be products of matter, which means that the idea that the universe is simply composed of matter is wrong. That is there, you know, the scientist probably is referring to here. A scientist who thinks that the universe is simply composed of matter, and therefore I think it's, since the conditions for life on this planet are so extremely specific, and these specific conditions cannot be found, highly unlikely to find any other planet similar to the Earth actually, if it's simply by chance. So therefore they would say there cannot be any living beings, or maybe there are some living beings, rarely on exceptional planets like that, but generally the universe is empty and vacant and void, like you know, like the moon. They claim the moon is just dust, and they will say it is simply. Of course, there's no living beings there. The sun, there are no living beings, of course, but that's on the assumption that life is material, and it is not material. Life is spiritual. We are spirit, and the soul can live everywhere, and they do live everywhere according to the Vedas and the Bhagavad Gita. Even on the sun planet, they will say that, but on the sun planet, all life will be sterilized by these millions of degrees. Actually, like the biological life, you don't need millions of degrees. You just need like 80, 90 degrees, and it's sterilized. But the point is that there is no. I mean, the soul cannot be burnt. How does that verse go? Nasato, not that word, no.
I don't know.
Cannot be slain by this.
Soul cannot be burned by fire, by withered by the wind, by moistened by water. It cannot be like that. No. You know that verse? It's
not the Sanskrit.
Okay, so but that's so therefore there must be, and there are living beings everywhere. Actually, life is the basis of existence, not matter, and therefore there are life everywhere. And therefore we can say for certain that the model of reality, which is just based on matter, is wrong. It's completely wrong. So, of course, what we can see may only be matter, and we are limited. It's just our senses are limited. But just because we cannot see it does not mean that it is not there. And life may have many forms that cannot be, you know, I mean, life can exist in any form. And even there is one example, it's described somewhere in the, isn't in the Bible or something like that, that actually Jupiter, that the living beings have forms of lightning on Jupiter. There they take the forms of lightning. So when the scientists first had a space capsule going to Jupiter and observing there, they concluded there cannot be any living beings here. Impossible. Why? Because there's too much lightning here. But we would say that's a life. That's precisely, that's a living beings. They have forms of lightning. That's a fact of it. That was a discovery. And so that's Prabhupada's basic point. Of course, also in detail, Prabhupada has many controversies with the so-called scientists, including them going to the moon. And even that's not very. It could be obvious here to give a lecture here on the did they go to the moon, did they not go to the moon or not. In Prabhupada's time it was a very prominent discussion because Prabhupada was actually pushing the point, because at that time it was very, it was very relevant. It was in the days of when they were so-called going to the moon, and it was in all the newspapers, and everyone was talking about it, and maybe people were so impressed. You know, we're living in a very historical time when the first steps are made into outer space by man. That is like, you know, it's, so we were all very, you know, felt very proud of being so privileged to live in such an exceptional time. That was Buster from the Prabhupada was not impressed and said they didn't go cheating. He said several things. Sometimes he kind of opened the possibility they could have gone there, but they actually could not see the complete moon. They could have, you know, they could have seen, you know, I mean, because most of the moon is actually ethereal, so the real moon is not visible to our eyes. Prabhupada was open to that idea also. But actually, in most cases, when you look at Prabhupada, say they didn't go there. They were simply cheating. They were simply cheating from beginning to end. And so that's quite controversial statements. Many were shocked by that. Even Prabhupada, some Prabhupada's disciples started doubting Prabhupada because he was saying like that. That, of course, also shows how Prabhupada, you know, actually, you know, how great he is, and actually how pure he is, because he doesn't cater to the sentiments of others, and is afraid whether someone will accept it or not accept it, or whether they will maybe even reject him because he's speaking. But he has, you know, he's a messenger of truth. You know, Guru is a messenger of truth, and they speak the truth, and, you know, if others will not accept it, well, he's not going to stop speaking the truth or change the truth. I mean, of course, he cannot change the truth. He's not. He simply speaks it, and of course, he wants everyone else to accept it. But he's not going to change his message just to become popular. That's you know, that's again a difference between a real guru, a real master, and maybe you can just finish speaking, and then we'll continue speaking. Yeah. You finish?
Yeah, I'll take it.
Okay, just explain.
Sorry,
okay, because it will distract me.
Yeah.
So, a real, you know, spiritual master, he simply speaks truth. He doesn't compromise the truth. And intelligent people will understand, and those who are sentimental may not understand, may not be willing to accept it. So Prabhupada had also sentimental disciples who are able to accept Prabhupada's statements on the moon, but he didn't change his message. And it's, I mean, we could give a whole lecture on that, get into details. But actually, when you really start looking at the evidence, I have a couple of books on the evidence of moon landing. One very thick book. Another not so thick book written by an engineer that was actually working for one of the big companies that were working for NASA. One of the rockets, I think they were making rocket engines. This company that he was working for, he was an engineer. So he wrote a whole book about how they didn't go to the moon and how he observed actually they are cheating. They are simply cheating. I mean, first of all, the whole operation was so big that it wasn't that they had to have thousands and thousands of engineers and scientists involved in the conspiracy. Actually, just I mean a few handful wouldn't be enough, and the rest they just paid peons who were working on a little project here, a little project there, without the big overview. And one reason why I say that they could not have gone to the moon, because the whole enterprise was so spaced out. And I mean that was the only space, you know, it was a space program. But not that they went to space, out in outer space, but it was just spaced out. It was, he described that it could be that, you know, because there was so much money flowing there, so sometimes you had a whole, you know, group of, you know, tens of highly paid engineers and so on for months and sometimes half years and do nothing, just being paid. And they were not accountable to anyone. It was so unorganized, the whole thing, when you got down and looked at it. That's but it's, of course, that's not the ultimate but he said that the technology wasn't there to send anyone out in space, and besides that's not even possible. The cosmic radiation is too intense in outer space for beings like us to go there and live there. There are many arguments, but actually, I just happened to stumble on some, a couple of quite elaborate books on that, and you can see immediately, it was cheap. It was Hollywood. They made the whole thing is, and it was just on TV, and they can make anything on TV. I mean, it's not difficult to fake some rocket moon landing or something like that, and that's what they did. And you can be sure about that. Don't have to even be perhaps or maybe like that. It's 100% certain that they didn't go there. And you can also see that the proof, one proof that they didn't go is they haven't been there since. Have you had any experience of they go to discover some continent or land or country, and then after it's discovered, nobody ever goes there again. I mean, if it's so possible 50 years ago to go to almost 50 years ago to fly to the moon, today with so much more advanced technology like that, so why it should be much easier? There would be tourists would be going to the moon if actually it was possible. By now they would have developed that technology by easily and like that. And they would say they put so much money, it's so requires so much money to do that. But that's not an argument, because there are plenty of people who have so much money. There are plenty of madmen out there who have billions of whatever currency you're talking about, and who would be willing to invest it all if they themselves could also go there. But the fact that they have not gone there since also is a strong proof that they didn't go there in the first place. And anyway, there's many arguments. Even when you study the pictures that so-called on the moon, you can actually, if you're a specialist, a photographer, especially photography, will point out, actually no, the lighting is completely wrong. It's not natural lighting. It's actually artificial lighting in the studio, and the lighting is wrong. The angle of the sun is wrong. The shades are off, and like that. And you can go on and you can analyze all of them.
And the rocket was not burned from the bottom. There's the fire, and it's supposed to leave some kind of a charge. Stuff.
Yeah, and a crater.
And the pictures from this moon when they're jumping, it's nothing like that.
Yeah.
And they talked about said that it was recorded in the Amazon somewhere. In the
Arizona or Nevada. There's a big military area, but it's actually a desert area which is very much like moon landscapes. But of course once it's an irrelevant point, so what if they went to the moon or not? Has that any consequence for Krishna being the Supreme Personality of Godhead and we being his servants? Doesn't affect that at all. But Prabhupada was using it to make some points and also to be controversial. Prabhupada liked to shock people sometimes, especially journalists, newspaper reporters and TV people. He liked to say things that were controversial, so they got a little. So you could get some attention. Sometimes it's like that. There's one man who had a donkey. He had a donkey, and this donkey, he couldn't pull it anyway. It was so stubborn, and he was yelling, and he was, and he was also, beating the donkey, and the donkey wouldn't want to move. Then one man came to him and said, you're doing completely wrong. You just have to talk nicely to him. Just be nice and talk gentle, and then he'll move. And then the man said, but what do you know? I mean, if you're so expert on donkeys, then you try. And then the man came, and then he came to the donkey. But that's just when about to start the donkey. Then he took actually off a big stick, and then he bang, and then he beat the donkey so heavy on the head, and the donkey was going. And then the man, and then he said, no, and then the donkey started moving. And then afterwards, but then the owner came to him and said, but you know what did you said you would speak just gentle to the donkey, but you hit him so hard, could almost have killed him, but why did you do that? You know, so I said, you just want to talk gently to him. But then the other man said, yeah, yes, but first I had to get his attention. And then he wouldn't listen, and then he came. So Prabhupada was also like that, you know, Prabhupada was saying shocking things to people listen, and then Prabhupada had, just give the big message like that. That was part of his tactics. So anyhow, I'll stop here and say something. I mean, much more could be said about the living beings and so on, but you should understand that actually the cosmology given in the Bhagavatam is not just some mythology or something. So no, it's according to the acharyas, this is actually a description of reality. And so we may be doubtful about that because we are also brainwashed by materialistic science, which is not science, but actually it's materialistic ideology disguising in the name of science. So that we have to have a look and see actually, well, it's not so scientific as it's been presented to. And actually the description in the Bhagavatam is much better model of reality that really corresponds also to what we can see here in front of our eyes, because actually here there are living entities everywhere, isn't it? I mean, we've never been to other parts of the universe. This part of the universe we have seen, here there are living entities everywhere. And they don't come from here. They didn't just arise by chance either. Anyway, sorry. Any questions or comments?
I don't have specifically on this topic, but I came across a statement by Srila Prabhupada which I found very, very hard to understand. So I was thinking that maybe I can ask you and see if you can make some sense of this.
No questions on this topic then, go ahead.
Okay, Srila Prabhupada, he says here in the purport, he says, a non-vegetarian diet means fish and meat. Similarly, Masura dal and Urad dal are also considered non-vegetarian. These two dals contain a great amount of protein, and food rich in protein is considered non-vegetarian. That one I didn't get.
No. I mean, actually, it is just stated right there that it's very high in protein, and it's in one way it's considered non-vegetarian. But it's not. Of course, it is vegetarian, but the effect can be like meat in a physiological sense, in an Ayurvedic sense, and like that. Not in the karmic sense.
Okay.
You don't get, you don't. For every, by eating food like that, it's not that you become an animal or a plant in the next life because of the great sinful activity of killing in the Sur dal plant.
What? Urad dal? It's a red one?
Urad dal and what is it?
I don't know. It says Masura dal and Urad dal.
Yeah, soya always. Yeah, I think that's Urad.
Yeah.
Urad dal, how it looks like? Is this the red one?
No, that's lentils.
Lentils.
It's a kind of isn't it kind of a yellowish, a little transparent. Is that wood dal just like that?
Sometimes they say something about the black dal, I don't know. Yeah. I'm not good with these names.
I say don't worry about it. But we haven't, when we observing Chatumarmasya. Then we are abstaining from non-vegetarian food, including Urdal and Masuradal. So, but that doesn't mean the 11 months of the year then we can eat meat and fish, because then we can eat non-vegetarian. But we can eat Urdal and Masuradal, for example. Pavadams, for example, they made from Urdal.
Oh, my God.
So, that's not vegetarian.
Yes. You see? It's like with this, Veda says that the bones are not clean, but the conscience is clean. And the same, the stool, even the Brahmana stool should be considered not clean, but the cow stool is.
Yeah.
So there's always some exceptions,
So, but we have, we have prohibition against eating non-vegetarian food, but that does not include Urdal and Masuradal in that context. It's not sinful.
I was just
I
wondering.
understand this from because it gives so much proteins that if you got this amount in your body, and of course the body and the mind, then it's a lot of energy, Then you gotta go and do like 10 hours of karma yoga, something, because we try to get to this sentient mode, moral goodness. That's how I see this.
It's not an important point.
It's extremely important.
Thank you for clarifying.
Anything else? Okay. So thank you. We stop here.
Tack.
Srimvara Sanki.
Uh,
Sanki.